All right, racists, let's talk about you culture vultures. Racist America does not love black culture. It requires it. In the same way a tick requires blood. They are intentionally dependent on black innovation because whiteness has no internal generator. It is a closed circuit of theft and mimicry, constantly rebooting itself on black genius just to feel human for 5 more minutes. Every jazz solo, every drill beat, every dance challenge is not just entertainment to them. It is dialysis. They yearn for the possibility of measuring up. They study black people in a fashion that totally blinds them to appearing like a Bundy/Dahmer hybrid. It's total psychosis. Whiteness consumes blackness the way an addict huffs oxygen. Not to thrive, but to avoid dying. And we can all agree that this is not new behavior. This is a historical genome of obsessive, racist behavior, from cotton to copyrights. The theft and culture adaptation started from a space of hiding the uniqueness of black people's hair and fashion. In the 1800s, vaudeville performers blackened their faces and became millionaires. In the 1900s, racists decided that they were sick of stinking up the bars while standing still, so they moseyed on over to the juke joint and began their theft of the blues. And when that became boring, because clearly no one wants to listen to Mitch McConnell cosplaying B.B. King, they repackaged rock music. How does one unseason chicken? Well, Dwight's found a way. Gentrifying R&B with the talents of George Michael, Michael Bolton, Michael McDonald, Christina Aguilera, and John B. While they all aren't total flops, could we have lived without their contribution? Absolutely. In the 2000s, they whitewashed hip-hop, and then staged Kanye making Taylor Swift a victim. All she had to be was be Jasmine Sullivan and be good enough to release music without a scandal or some award show scheme. In the 2020s, TikTok bans black creators but rewards the mimic class with brand deals. Whiteness doesn't create culture. It loots it, drains it, and then gatekeeps it, as if its hands were dripping in blood and glitter. While we are grateful for the contributions of the artists mentioned, we must ask ourselves, why? Why do we need white artists in an industry where they are swallowed whole without some huge circus to catch everyone's attention? Yet a full export of black culture to the rest of the world, basically saying, hey, look, China, we have the gold over here. Therefore, you must do what we say. They want so badly to own black culture when they don't have the ability to contribute or create one part of it. To love black culture while fearing black people is state-sponsored schizophrenia. You can't cheer for LeBron, but call Tamir Rice threatening. They want the bass of black music, but none of the memory of violence and theft encoded in the chord. They want the hips, the lips, the slang, but not the screams. Why are they obsessed? Because blackness is aliveness. It's spiritual elasticity. It's memory under pressure that sings instead of breaks. Black people are everything that everyone else can't be. Every time they imitate black culture, it's them admitting that black people are the source.
Ifa is evil, Yeshu is Satan, and African spirituality in its entirety are barbaric. These are the words that comes out of the mouths of the practitioners of the true Abrahamic religion. They say so many bad things about our orishas and our money. They say demeaning things about our ancestors' way of communing with the Supreme Being. And each time you ask them how they are this convinced that these things are true, they say their pastor said, their Afar said, the Bible said, the Quran says, and this and that. And then I ask them, so your conviction is solemnly on the fact that somebody said, not on experience. There is no Orisha that accepts human's blood. Ifa is not evil. Ishu is not Satan. And African spirituality is in entirety and not demonic. Neither are they barbaric. And to everybody who is trying to revert into their ancestors' way of communion with the Olodumare, and people who are trying to come back into Ifa Orisha spirituality or the Orisha of your ancestors, please do not listen to these people. There are millions of them that comes to seek fortress under the umbrellas of Ifa. But do you know why they cannot come out? Because the religion they are in are judgmental. I know that there are some of you who have been experiencing a personal encounter with your ancestors. Some of you have been dreaming about seeing yourself in settings of Ifa priests, Olorishas. Some of you have been seeing yourself at the river bank and communing with some people that you are not familiar with here physically. Some of you have seen yourself among old people that are giving you guidance in your dreams. And each time you tell your pastor, they tell you they are demons, they are influencing your life negatively. No, they are not all of them. Those are your ancestors that are trying to, get you back into the right path. Those are your astral mates that are trying to recall you back into your right senses. Those are people who are trying to tell you that you have all you need. It's funny that lots of people will rather believe what their enslaver told them than what their father has been telling them.
Greetings, honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Powered by, produced by, promoted and sponsored by, supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. We invite you to join us, participate, become a part of our third annual International New Orleans Voodoo Day. Please visit our website at www.vodouday.org. That's voodooday.org for more information and updates about this coming historic and powerful event. There have been several updates to the website, so if you haven't checked in the last few days or the last week or so, please do visit our website at www.vodouday.org, voodooday.org. It is useful to pause at this point in the conversation and consider that although the term African is used frequently throughout the document that we have been discussing in the last few episodes, incarnations, if you will, of this podcast, ritual magic, divination, and spell work as relates to Jamaica's maroon culture and freedom struggle, and ultimately the freedom struggle in the new world of our people between the years of 1728 and 1824 in particularly. And so the usage of the term African used frequently, it does not suggest homogeneity of a single African culture. It speaks to a much larger collective of culture and experiences brought to the experience that we shared, developed, and often evolved to accommodate the environment that we now found ourselves in. A longer and better history, and one not written under the restrictions of a global pandemic, might dictate more space to the ethnic and cultural heritage of every person who was a key actor in these revolts. And even then, unfortunately, much of that knowledge has been lost as British enslavers and plantation owners tend to lump Africans into meta-ethnicities like Coromantee, a common phraseology or word used in Jamaica, which describe various Akan-speaking people. Many individual stories were never documented, and in a few exceptional cases, such as Tacky's, African narratives did survive, but were screwed in their retelling by these British writers. It should be taken as a given, however, that a high degree of cultural mixing and borrowing did occur on the African continent, and even more so in Jamaica and the New World. To delineate the origins of particular elements, it should be recognized is sometimes a disservice to the shared experiences of Africans from many backgrounds in Jamaica. Often, it was not ethnic boundaries that separated people but their free or enslaved status which created the division. Many individuals might share in a ritual that was not a part of their cultural upbringing, and days later be hunted by someone else from the same region they hailed from. Africans then shall refer to the New World peoples of African descent in cases where it is not culturally appropriate to call them Afro Jamaicans or Jamaicans yet. And while possible, this document will nod towards distinctions such as when a group may decisively be called a Khan people. One ethnic boundary that remains important to keep stationary is that between British enslavers, plantation owners, and administrators on one side, and on the other, the Africans they violently suppressed. And certainly there was cultural mixing between the two groups. British planters went to Africans for healing. Africans integrated European understandings of the unseen world into their repertoires, and so on. However, the British also dictated and enforced Jamaica's laws. Those laws often failed to capture African understandings of the same events. For example, the term obia, which intended to describe African practices, but actually better reflected what Europeans falsely lumped together as belief systems held in common by enslaved peoples. In truth, obia practitioners had both a remarkable diversity in the sorts of rituals they might practice and a willingness to blend, adapt, and work together to overcome adversity. Some discussion will therefore be necessary of the perspectives that both Europeans and Africans brought to the phenomenon of obia, and ultimately to hoodoo and conjure here in the deep American South. Magic and other related terms have always challenged historians. David Frankfurter writes that magic does not properly translate any indigenous terms in any ancient culture. Magic is an English based word, so it would not even have been a part of our communication, a part of our thought process until enslavement and the integration and synthesizing of these practices and these traditions, the mixing. Even in cultures that do have a word for magic, there are nearly as many different definitions of magic as there are people who think about it. And oftentimes, those definitions are exclusive of or disparaging towards the views held by other cultures. Furthermore, the idea of magic has served for centuries in modern Western anthropology and philosophy as the antithesis of science, religion, and rationality. And in that respect, carries its own intellectual history, its own construction of austerity. The scholar must undo these modern biases and struggle to define magic for a particular culture at a particular time. For example, we know in Kemet, we see the word, oh wow, I just drew a blank, Heka, Heka in its English spelling, Heka. And we've been taught that it represented magic and that Kemet or ancient Egyptians didn't practice quote unquote religion, but viewed the world through magic. But again, the usage of the word magic has everything to do with who's using the word, what it's being passed, what sieve it's being passed through in its usage. So scholars invariably fail to do that. But something useful is nevertheless produced by their attempts at describing what they're witnessing. There is something fundamentally human about magic as a mode of explanation. For even in ancient societies, the indigenous terms that magic has historically translated tend to function in a similar way across many cultures. In a general sense, these terms work as part of a flexible and evolving vocabulary for ritual practices and systems of constructing knowledge and belief. Produced definitions vary across time and place, but historians and their readers should not neglect to try and fail and try again to understand magic as a part of human culture, human experience. Therefore, readers should not take any definition produced in this particular document as an absolute, and instead consider how something that 18th century writers called magic or divination or obia is an important site of cultural investigation. Of course, these definitional issues are compounded when the time and place one intends to study lies at the intersection of many cultures, as in colonial Jamaica. And normally, any definition must be regionally specific elsewhere. To categorize magic based on how it is observed is similarly insignificant to capture its functional role and relationship to a society. Magic takes many forms. Some are self invented and very private, others draw from a culturally shared, though not necessarily socially approved, repertoire of locations and practices. To interpret magic on any scale presents the necessary challenge of synthesizing its particulars. The culture of 17th through 19th century Jamaica arose through the unique combination of its many constituent cultures. Chief among them were the many cultures of the Africans who were enslaved and worked on Jamaica's plantations, or who were free, mostly as maroons in independent societies further inland, and that of the British who enslaved them and lived in Jamaica mostly as planters or as colonial officials. It is therefore useful to offer some overview of what the British and Africans understood about magic before coming to Jamaica. And that rule applies throughout the Pan-African diaspora, certainly here in Louisiana, in North America, understanding the ideas of magic and witchcraft held by those who held us in bondage, and what roles that fear and that encyclopedia of information also would have played as it relates to their interaction with us and their experiences with us in our demonstrations to magic. And I certainly want to continue to thank my chat audience for showing up and being present with us. Greetings, Nina Lloyd. Thank you so much for coming through. Daniel Neal, strong member of our community. Thank you for your participation and support. Ray Alexander, we certainly appreciate you for coming in. And let's open the mics for our co-hosts. We are certainly grateful for First Priest, Initiate, Wildman Joshua Nylan Tanner for being present with us. Our Elder, Green Soap, Elder Reggie, team member, NOIVD leader and administrator. Thank you so much for your participation in this weeknight daily podcast. And then we will go to Sister Toni Val Martinez. Greetings, Brother Joshua. Peace and blessings. What say you this evening?
Good day, everyone. Hope you guys had a great weekend. On the topic of magic, there's a lot to pull out of that in terms of our history and what they call magic, black magic. I wanted to kind of speak on a gentleman actually by the name of Benjamin Rucker. who was known as Black Hermit. He's known as one of the first or one of the most famous Negro magicians in the history of the United States. He was born in 1892 in Virginia and died in 1934. He adopted that name to pay homage to a few Black magicians he admired. One of them was by the name of Prince Herman and Alonzo Herman. Black. He actually also made a living selling tonics and mail order occult courses, books, pamphlets, talismans that were designed to protect its wearer from white supremacy, specifically. Arguably, one of the most interesting aspects of him was how he used his platform as an entertainer and a hoodoo man to promote his militant Black nationalist political belief. And he actually lived in New York for a little while, in Harlem, which was ground zero for Marcus Garvey during that same time when he was living. Herman even claimed that he was born in the dark jungles of Africa and was apprenticed by a Zulu witch doctor. So, like, in terms of the mixing and what you're talking about in terms of understanding of the magic and the English meaning of magic and what it represented, it just represented, in my opinion, things that they didn't know nothing about, in my opinion. But based on what I'm saying and based on what I've been studying. So it's definitely, I'm glad you brought that topic up tonight. Magic is something that's through and through our culture and has been misrepresented by Western influence because of the power that it held and the abilities that they knew nothing about. Or those who didn't know anything about feared it. So the way of not acknowledging something is basically renaming it and making it something that is not, making it a misnomer.
Yes, indeed. And just a reminder that it is an ongoing topic. We've been discussing this now for several episodes of the podcast, divination and ritual magic in Jamaican's maroon culture and the freedom struggle from 1728 to 1824, and how that then affects what we experienced here in the Deep South and certainly in Louisiana. Come on in, Elder Reggie. What say you, beloved?
Greeting Divine Prince, greeting Joshua, greeting Sister Toni and collective audience. Pretty good, interesting read that you brought forward. The one thing that I'm looking at is herbalism, because for me it was using the chemistry and the properties of herbs to get things done medicinally, spiritually, which translate into physically. So I would say the magic centered around herbalism. That's all I would like to add at this moment.
And it certainly would have held, I would call, the wealth of our nation during that time when we weren't allowed to own or hold on to much of anything. All we had was our knowledge and that wealth of knowledge that was passed down from our mothers and our fathers and great grands and et cetera, for our own healing, but also for protection and other certainly magical perspectives. Brother Joshua literally went into my head with the Black Hermit story. I had been holding that story off maybe for 2 weeks in a tab on my computer. And I really appreciate him reminding us about the usage of these tools and implements specifically to fight white supremacy, which again, we are led to believe that we kind of were beat down, whipped down, laid down, and just sort of went along with the program. The timing also, my father, just for, a point of reference, was born in 1938. Okay. And Sister Toni Val Martinez, beloved Queen Mother, her parents were Garveyites. Come on in, Sister Toni.
Hi, good night, everyone in the listening area. Brother Joshua, Elder Reggie. Yeah, my mom was a Garveyite, not my dad. I came from a kind of unique, divided household. I had a Roman Catholic father, and we had to follow Roman trap. I did Roman Catholic traditions, go to Catholic church, go to Catholic school. But my thing is, while y'all was speaking on magic and the word magic kept coming up, when I think of magic, I never connected with voodoo or hoodoo. I always connect magic with card tricks and sawing a woman in half and getting out of handcuffs, Houdini, Chris Angel. I don't know. I just never see, I guess because of society, and that's how they push magic onto us. Um, that's what they make us believe magic is. So I just never associate that word with anything black people do, really. We, as Real Elder Reggie said, we heal people. We use it to stop stuff from happening. We use it as a way of, rebellion and healing our people. And I just never saw that in magic. I always saw magic as entertaining. But when they add the word black magic to it,
Yeah.
that's when I start thinking about, okay, spells and, that type of stuff. But just the word magic to me, it make me think of Chris Angel. I mean, I feel no way. Now, if somebody say Wiccan and come out exactly and call the practitioners, well, then I see it in that way of herbal, magic and a type of magic that is practiced in voodoo and hoodoo for protection and stuff like that, but not just the word magic. I kept seeing Chris Angel trying to levitate, Houdini getting out of straitjacket.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's always a trick to that in a certain way that they getting out of that. That really isn't nothing supernatural. It's just the hands being quicker than the eyes type thing. But also I was thinking about this week, Trump is taking away the status of 500,000 Haitians in this country.
Yeah.
And that goes to deporting them and knowing pretty much the situation in Haiti and how the people had to really get out of there. And he's sending them back into that environment. I can't see how that's going to work in my head. Are you going to load people up and put them on an airplane from a detention center and call yourself flying them to Haiti? Because last I heard, they were shooting at airplanes. So, I mean, are they going to put them in this new alligator Alcatraz tent city jail that they putting together in Florida? And the governor, Ron DeSantis, stand up there saying, well, think about it. Where they're going to go is 50 miles of swamp and alligators. I did a Facebook post on that news item, and I put, well, he must have never heard of the Maroons.
Yeah,
I mean, you putting them by the swamp, and then also where they putting it is in contrast to some Native American tribes. And the Seminoles land is one of them, and they're protesting them putting the tent city camp at that spot right now. So it's a lot going on with that, but I'm just trying to see how is that going to look. Are they going to be going through the Haitian communities and dragging them out their house? I mean, that's just,
Yeah, that looks bad.
I don't see how that's gonna work.
Right, it looks bad. I mean, I don't see how it's gonna work either. That's something that I don't want to see, and I hate that we are at that point that this is happening. Like, and it shouldn't be happening. But our leaders are not. I guess they're leading with, I don't know what they're leading with, but
They leading with white supremacy. That's what they leading with. But I was thinking about it, and I was saying, man, this is like kind of a reversal of when they came over here from the Haitian Revolution, and they went into the swamps and stuff. And July the 2nd is the date that they're supposed to start going after them. And July 2nd is also the date that this tent city camp is supposed to be ready to receive people.
yeah.
When the Haitians first came here, they went into the southern swamps from the revolution. Now you taking them and sending them back to the southern swamps, because I think that's why they was getting that particular prison ready.
Might be
And
right.
I'm like, Maroon City, even though to me, today's people will have a hard time going into those swamps like our ancestors did, but I don't put nothing past a determined person.
No, indeed. Especially now, I mean, a lot of people would do anything to survive, and it's human nature for us to be free and be able to live the way we want to live and not be subjugated to control and manipulation and things that are man-made to restrict you from living your life. As I just think about the families and all the people that are being affected by it, that will be affected by it. That's not a small community. You're talking about 500,000 people.
Well,
And that's going to affect more than 500,000 people. It's going to affect their cousins, their family, their uncles, these people got family that extend outside of them. So
yeah, and from the looks of it, they're gonna be trying to take all of them. I mean, they taking children, they taking the Hispanic people children also, that if they could get their hands on them. So, I don't know, this is just dire. But they also have Indian communities, Native American communities that live in that same area that might still know those swamps over the changing year and follow a lot of their ancestral practices and stuff. And I was thinking, here we go once again, putting some enslaved people and Native Americans together, and all I can think of some maroon activity.
yeah.
Because the natives are already angry that you put this type place in there on their land. So my thing was, I'ma steal away as many I can and help them get out. It really is like we are going back in history with these movements, with the way we're gonna have to move.
Yeah, you
So
raise a
I
good
mean,
point, Sister Toni. Yeah. But what I wanted to say, we're getting a little bit past our time, and I don't mind closing out, and we pick it up tomorrow night. But just to encapsulate it and bring it back home, in January when I was in Benin, West Africa, so and I've seen them before. They're called Zimbeto. Zimbeto is like a grass hut that can dance, pirouette, move around, jump, do a lot of things. But when you open this particular hut up, there's nothing inside. Normally, there's a small statue or item which seems to be the source engine of the Zimbeto. But right before your very eyes, you are seeing magic. And to a European, because Africans are black people and that's magic, they labeled it black magic. But it is amazing to see, and there's no rational thought how these Zimbetos move around. And I just wanted to close now saying that the New Orleans International Voodoo Day, we have a tentative date for 2026. Please keep your ears to this channel as we fill in the informations over a period of time, and continue to support us any way you can. With that, I say ashe, ashe, ashe. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Have a great evening.
Vodou.
Shit.
All right, I have to say something because this whole I work with understanding is getting way out of hand. My love, we're human. We're human. Deities and divinities. Humans. Deities and divinities. We are not equal to these deities and divinities, none whatsoever. As humans, are we divine in our own right and own nature and everything? Because Creator lives within all things, including us. Does divinity flow through us? Of course. But we're human. Deities and divinities. They're not your homeboys or your homegirls where you could call upon them at any time you want, have them do things, and then after that, you put down the phone. No. That's not how it works. None whatsoever. And some of these deities and divinities requires initiation to be able to know how to worship and service them properly so you can work with them properly. And that knowledge is only passed down to you from elders within the practice. And I'm going to be talking to Risha here because you only learn how to properly work with Orisha and how to properly worship and service Orisha from elders in the practice. Only through initiation you gain that knowledge and understanding. You can't just pick up a candle, kick it on, and then just think that you're going to be connecting and reaching out to Oshun or Yemaya or whoever. It doesn't work that way. There are secrets and understandings that are passed down when it comes to Orisha that requires initiation. Orisha will not ever come to you in a dream or anything like that or blah, blah, blah to give you these secrets on how to properly be able to service them, work with them, worship them. They won't. You only gain that from the elders. And in the words of my godfather, because him and I had a conversation about a month ago and everything, Orisha does not need us. It's us humans that need Orisha. And you only gain that understanding, once again, through Orisha. It's not some new age spirituality. It's not something that you could just one day wake up the next day and say, I'm a devotee of. Ceremonies, protocol. It's a tradition. Y'all really need to learn how to respect tradition. It is a travesty. It's abysmal how tradition is not respected much these days en masse, especially by people who think that they are exempt from tradition.
Please, allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy and that might be true. I got this right in my DNA, yet I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the tables, flip these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees. It's time you pay for your dirt and your shit. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation, and I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she's straight. But she had one question: when we gon' get up? All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, "Meet you ready to ride?" Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch your back. Keep your hands up on your gas. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name of Detroit Red. He looks me in my eye and says, "You only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside. I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise." Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down.